What's up, my friends? My name is Lorenz. I'm the co-founder of Sutra.co, and Sutra is a social learning platform designed to help you create courses that invite meaningful connection and conversation. In this video, I'd like to share with you some basic approaches to designing a truly transformational experience online. Now, first, what do I mean by transformation? I mean this in a very specific way, in that transformation is something that becomes available in a space where people become deeply present to themselves and each other. And this idea that this quality of presence occurs on an infinite spectrum. There's always more that you can become present to within yourself. There's always more that you can become present to within another person or a situation. And why is this relevant? Because that presence, becoming present to yourself, becoming present to what may be unspoken but communicated anyway, becoming present to various dynamics or things that might be in some sort of shadow territory, or things that might be influencing you, or things that might be really important to you but you're not fully aware of. That quality of presence offers agency. It offers choice. It gives you the ability to just be with whatever's there and choose what you want to do intentionally. And of course, this is even more relevant in a relational context where everything that might be there for you also exists as something that might be there for another person. And often we have no idea all the subtle things that may be influencing a situation. And as we become more present to those things, it's kind of like navigating a field of icebergs. You see the top layer, but as you become present to what is beneath the surface, that offers a certain amount of intelligence, agency, and choice. And that is what offers transformation. So what we're talking about is really creating an experience where it's not just about the content. You might be teaching something, but what's available is a much deeper quality of human relationship. That this is really the secondary benefit of almost any group learning experience. That you can learn about whatever you're learning, but then there's this secondary benefit of the way of being that's invited into that experience. And that way of being involves becoming deeply present to ourselves and each other. And so this is what we're talking about when we talk about designing a transformational experience online. It's also helpful to understand that when it comes to an online learning experience, there is a broad spectrum of what that can mean. On one side of the spectrum, you might have something like a self-paced or an evergreen experience where there's a bunch of content on a website and a person goes through it at their own pace. I like to think of that as a digital book experience. And on the other side of that spectrum, you have a group experience where there's emphasis on the quality of conversation and connection that emerges. Somewhere in between, you might have something like a content experience plus a Facebook group where people can post questions and articles and stuff like that. And I want to offer a distinction here, which is that there is a difference between activity and intimacy. You might have a lot of people posting, but there's very little care and relationship between the participants. Or you might have a group experience where there's a genuine sense of relationship that emerges through that process. And it's not that one is better or worse than the other. It's just important to understand what you're optimizing for. Are you optimizing just for content, or for content and connection? And of course, in the context of a transformational experience, what we're talking about is the content offers a way to create much deeper levels of connection. And the opportunity there is that people become deeply present to themselves and each other, that's a function of intimacy, that through that process of intimacy, we can really surface what's in the space of shared awareness. And as we do so, that creates an opportunity for some kind of transformation, particularly in the relational space between the participants of the experience. And the way that we approach designing an experience like this online is really through conversation. So when I say transformational experience design, what I really mean is designing a conversational learning experience that invites deeper levels of intimacy, authenticity, and meaningful sharing. And of course, because we are talking about a human space, you can't just expect people to dive right in. You want to warm up the space and put some intelligence around the process of how you do that. So part of that is what I want to talk about here, which is just this understanding of how you work with what's available in the online space. So what's available in a Zoom call, what's available in an online discussion or community space, and what might be available with individual assignments, and how those elements can weave into each other over time to create deeper levels of meaningful connection and conversation. When we design an online learning experience, we think about how this process builds on itself week by week, and how what we introduce in the Zoom space creates an explicit invitation to have a deeper conversation in the online discussion space. Just keeping in mind that when we're on Zoom, we have a limited amount of time. There's only so many people that can participate, and when we're in an online text-based space, there's a lot more time and everybody can participate, but of course engagement becomes more of a challenge. So how do you use what's available in the Zoom time, the face-to-face connection and the opportunity to have a conversation right there and then all together, and use that to create momentum that then feeds into the online discussion space. So I'm going to jump on here and show you exactly how we work with this process. So what we're looking at here is the online space for one of our programs where we organize the content and conversation. And one of the first things that we like to do is to invite participants to introduce themselves and share a little bit about why they're here. And we'll create a prompt that we post into their group space that goes something like, we invite you to take a moment right now to connect with your intention for this course, get clear on why you're here and what you hope to get out of this experience. Please share a little bit about yourself and what you're committed to creating through this program in your group discussion space. People will respond to that, and of course it creates an opportunity for them to begin to get to know each other. In week 2, we'll begin to introduce some of the core material on the Zoom call and in the online content space, and then we'll have a specific invitation for them to share something relevant to that content in their group discussion space. So that might look like, this week we invite you to share about your own experience with holding space and bringing people together both online and offline. How have you approached this in your life? Consider any specific stories that demonstrate how you approach holding space. What has worked? What hasn't? Again, we want to get into their personal direct experience that might be relevant to each other. And then we ask them to please tag this post as holding space, which helps us identify those posts in their group chat space. So here someone has responded with one of the most powerful things I've learned is the concept of normalizing as a way to create more safety. My simple explanation would be that conscious or unconscious shame can crop up when a participant feels that they don't know or aren't doing it right. If there is a way to preempt that possibility by naming it and normalizing beforehand, then when it comes up for an individual, they know that they are not alone. This can also be used when someone is sharing and you can sense that they may feel alone or singled out in their discovery. So we'll take this and we'll actually copy and paste it into a PowerPoint slide and share that on the next Zoom call, because it's just such a perfect example of what we're talking about here. It's meaningful, it's substantive, it's valuable, and it offers value to other participants to as a kind of a deeper insight into the reality of holding space online. The key thing to remember here is that this is a conversational process that builds on itself over time. And what you want to do is amplify the most relevant parts of the conversation. So when someone shares something that's insightful, that creates an opportunity for you to then capture that content and highlight it in the Zoom time. So the core information isn't just coming from you, it's coming from the participants. And because that's happening, it creates an opportunity for people to really discover something through each other, but also to feel much more connected, like they're co-creating this experience together. So in a way, you're engineering this experience of co-creation by putting a lot of thought into how the content that you introduce in the Zoom time or just the core content itself creates an invitation for people to share in a meaningful way, and then creates an opportunity for you to harvest what is being shared and highlight that to create a more co-created learning experience. The way that we always approach the design process for an experience like this is through prototyping, keeping things as simple as possible, involving people as soon as possible, and just putting enough there to get started and actually seeing what emerges through the participation of people. So create a lightweight version at first, see what emerges through the conversation, and then use that to inform subsequent iterations. Again, just keeping in mind, how can you tighten the loop between what happens in a Zoom call and what happens in an online discussion space, and how that can really feed into itself over time to create this experience. And the thing about Sutra is Sutra as a platform, it doesn't magically create meaningful connection, but it has been designed specifically to support this kind of conversational learning experience where the content actually creates an opportunity for people to have a conversation, which then generates more content, which then builds more connection over time, hopefully, ultimately offering a transformational learning experience for everyone involved. All right, I hope that has been insightful and helpful in some way. If you have any questions or reflections or things you'd like to share about your own conversational or course design process, please share your comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. If you think this video would be valuable for someone else, please share it. In the meantime, so much love to you. Thank you for watching.